Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. I am here about to record a podcast that should have happened about 3 weeks ago. But to my mistake, I left the power cord over at UNLV, so we had to postpone that. So thank you, gentlemen, for abiding with me through that very embarrassing moment. I'm here with Chris Smith and Paki Phillips. They are the co-hosts of the Vegas Circle podcast. Very similar to what I host here. They've been in it a little longer than me. We'll call them the OGs. The Vegas Circle is a podcast where hosts Paki and Chris invite people to discuss how they are pushing forward the culture of Las Vegas. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, man, I am excited for this. Pull the mic up just a little bit closer. Okay, yeah, there you go. Man, the culture of Vegas, this is a topic that I discuss probably every episode. It seems like we're kind of in the cultural renaissance of this city. Mm-hmm. Now that Vegas was built on tourism, right? The Strip has kind of governed the city for a long time. That's where all the entrepreneurs have kind of found themselves at, making quick money. But I think the pandemic kind of rattled everybody and realized that you don't need to work on the Strip to find some success. And you guys had this vision before the pandemic even happened.
Yeah, for sure.
So what caught your attention about the culture of Las Vegas?
So Vegas was always on the map for me. So I moved here in 2007.
Here, fix that just a little bit.
I've been here since 2007. I first moved to California, and then looking at the cost of living, state tax, great place to build a business, and then finally moved here in 2007. And then Chris and I actually met in 2012. So we actually used to work together, and we were actually, it's funny enough, we were actually supposed to do a real estate podcast.
Really?
Probably about maybe 6 years ago.
The world needs more of those.
Exactly. It's super funny you said it, because I'm like, there's no way in hell that I'm going to end up getting bored,
Yeah, I was bored after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, so we were talking about that, and then we kept going back and forth trying to figure out what we were going to do. And then we ended up launching in the summer of 2018. So we've been 3 years now for us.
Wow.
We've been having a blast, man.
Yeah, I saw you guys just had episode 69, speaking of that, with one of the owners of Massage Envy.
Yeah, Marissa Hawkins, man. She's sharp. We own 7 of those, 7 franchises. So,
really?
Yeah, been doing it for 16 years, her and her husband. So it's been fun, man. I mean, we've had so many people on, and in the beginning, it's funny you say that. You said you lost your cord. Mm-hmm. Chris fired me immediately. The first interview we had, we had to re-record it twice. With Mike Xavier. I don't know if you know Mike Xavier, the musician. And I couldn't believe he actually even came back on. We did the whole recording. I delete everything, and then I had to call back and say, "Mike, can you come back on?" And he was generous and came back on. So
definitely,
I actually did that twice. I think.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, so I understand it for sure.
There's a lot of trials and tribulations that come with starting up anything, not just a podcast, but just life or entering college for your first time, a business, taking on any educational course. It's just like, it's so new. You have to expect the unexpected, as cliche as it sounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you got to pivot, man. You got to figure out how to pivot, and especially with the pandemic. I mean, we've all had to pivot. Like you were saying, working in the club industry and then transition to what you've done. I mean, it's unbelievable, man. It's fun. Yeah.
So let's build some context for the listeners. We'll start with Chris. Tell us a little bit about your origin story. How'd you end up in Vegas, and then hooking up with Paki?
Yeah, you kind of piggybacking on what Paki said. We're both from the East Coast. Originally, I moved here in 2011. We worked together, so we've kind of built that relationship over the years. And we both similarly had the vision of, Vegas is continuously growing. You see a lot of money being spent here, but really the base of the culture didn't seem to be there from what we've seen. Like we knew there's a backbone of it. There's a lot more to Vegas than just the Strip area. And so we wanted to highlight those people who are doing things that isn't necessarily big money investments, where it's the small person trying to grow and get their piece of that pie. And what are they doing, not necessarily just in business, but entertainment, and what they're just trying to help people, whether through nonprofits or help people through their investments in the schools. And we wanted to highlight those people that are making the difference in those areas. So we both kind of had that same vision of, how do we at least give them an opportunity to showcase what they're doing involving in the city. And over time, we decided to jump into the podcast. Paki's always loved podcasts. I personally didn't listen to many of them before we started doing it. So I've learned a lot through the kind of journey that we went through. And Paki has just been really spearheading it and being super energized about it and just really helping us jump in. And over the years, we've grown and really enjoy it. The networking has been fantastic. And, Vegas is where we plan to stay, at least me.
Yeah. Podcasting goes really hand in hand with the ethos of Vegas, because Vegas is built on networking. It's a very, what can you do for me now kind of town, instant gratification. When you navigate the Strip, it's all about knowing that manager or that bartender to get in for free, get the benefits. And as we know, unfortunately, Nevada is generally one of the laggards in terms of education. But it does compensate itself in other ways. And that's where you guys saw, even before my own vision, that entrepreneurship's beginning on the rise. And you kind of got on the ground floor of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting, man. And you learn so much from people. Like when you listen to the stories, like when Chris and I were talking about, I've listened to interviews. It's one of my biggest hobbies. Interviews, podcasts, things
I'm
like that.
the same way.
Yeah, because you learn so much about their story. You learn about where where they've lost at is the win. And when you learn that, and then when we got into the podcast and you start interviewing, whether it's an artist, whether it's a business owner, and you just literally learn so much. There's so many nuggets that you get out of it. And it's like one lady that we had on that owns Tiabe Coffee. One of the
I had Tiffany on here too.
Yeah, you know Tiffany. She said one of the best things that I'd heard. She said, and it wasn't pretty, it was learn bookkeeping. And I think she has 3 or 4 businesses now.
Yeah, she has Jolt, she has Tiabe, and she was beginning to start something else.
Yeah, I think they opened up a second Tiabe, if I'm not mistaken, off Tropicana. And learning that is just bookkeeping. So like for us, it's like when we were talking offline, it's like learning how to record, how do you put it out, how do you build the content, how do you put yourself in the best light, how do you not embarrass the other people? There's so many things that you learn, and then it's just been fun, man. I have a blast doing it.
Right.
So.
Recording is the fun part, but unfortunately it's only about 10% of the entire process.
100%.
Between marketing it, and also in a place like Vegas where podcasting isn't very popular, it's only about 50% of the United States even listens to podcasts. Vegas, it's probably much lower than that.
Very much.
Because
So.
everyone is caught up with either partying or they're kind of siloed in their own circles. So when you go out and you're trying to approach different like-minded individuals, it almost feels like you're doing nothing, like you're kind of shouting into an abyss.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody else validating your mission. It's just you, and you have to be very contrarian to know that your message is going to stick at some point as long as you continue with it.
Very much so.
Yeah,
And that's been the biggest challenge. How do you consistently continue to try to push your vision, even though you may, like you said, it may not be reciprocated. Somebody may not be letting you know if it's a good job or not. But if you believe in that vision enough, which I think Paki and I do, and obviously you do as well, is that you continue to create the content, because ultimately, you find one person who likes the podcast, they're going to listen to your whole library, and they may gather some tidbits out of it, or they may become interested in what Vegas is doing. And those are the people that we like to create the content for, that maybe not right now, but in the future, there may be somebody who can, benefit from it.
Yeah, it becomes a historical library. Like, how many people go back on Joe Rogan's entire library of 1,500 episodes, and you go back. When I first started the podcast, I actually went through and watched the first 10 of his episodes all the way through just to see how he grows. And then you go back and you see things like people like Tim Ferriss and Lex Fridman and all these other podcasters, Adam Curry, who just continue to grow. And you realize they were in the same position you are. They weren't perfect. Yes, they are these like huge titans of their industry.
Sure.
But they were still trying to figure it out at the end of the day. Joe Rogan's one of the first podcast episodes, like cut out halfway through because he had no idea how to operate anything.
With Joe Rogan, too, it's funny. Me and you are very similar on that lane, is because Joe wasn't doing it. It was just a hobby. And people were looking at him like he was crazy. Like, why are you doing this? Like, and I think he started like 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. 2009.
Yeah, I
Was it
think he's
2009?
11 or 12 years now. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, Joe he's just a mastermind, man, to be able to figure it out now, signing a deal. I know people don't gossip, talk about it, but I think he signed like $100 million deal with Spotify.
100 mil a year for the next 3 years. Reportedly could be more.
Wow.
People were calling him a sellout, but he's been the pioneer of the entire industry. He was one of the first, I think, few hundred podcasts that ever existed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he's inspired a lot of people. He inspired me. He was definitely one of my role models of starting this.
Yeah.
Like he opened up the idea that you can basically speak your mind on an open air as long as you don't have some sort of production oversight or like corporation that's governing you.
Yeah.
And like, I remember being in college learning about Joe Rogan talking about DMT on live on air. And I was like, you could just talk openly and freely about drugs. Like that just like, it completely like shattered my perception.
Yeah, Joe is crazy. But I know he was just here with Dave Chappelle too. I think they just did 2 nights. We were at the other weekend that he did, not with Joe Rogan, but with Dave Chappelle and friends. But Joe's just a mastermind, man. And I think that's why he's people see the organicness of it. And I think that's why podcasts are moving so fast, because with radio, it's like you have so many, corporate entities that control a lot of that, and they monitor what you want to do. And then the podcasts have blown up because it's organic. You know what I mean? You're getting the news where, we probably don't listen to the news, CNN or Fox, whatever it is. But when you listen to a podcast, that's where I get my news from. You know what I mean? Is find out, what's out there. So it's interesting.
We're in the rise of the audio influencers is beginning to take over. If you're in somebody's ear for an hour a day or 2 or 3 times a week, they're going to resonate with you harder than that talking head on CNN that talks to them for 5 minutes through a constructed manuscript that they don't even believe in.
Yeah, for sure. And they're just trying to control. I mean, they're literally trying to basically control you, shock you, scare you to hold your attention. You know what I mean? And so I like that. I mean, I like the positiveness. I mean, what Chris and I have really tried to do is show the light of positiveness in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like you said, everybody's talking about drugs and clubs and all this other stuff, but there's obviously a lot of people that are building businesses here, and Vegas is such a great place to build a business. If there's so many I don't want to say tax shelters, but
tax
legal
benefits.
Yeah, it's tax benefits. And whether you're here or Delaware, there's so many people that are doing that here, and we just love being able to see that, from some of the cool people we've had on for restaurants to just everything. It's just beautiful. Yeah.
Podcasting at the end of the day, it's like a tool.
Yes.
A lot of new entrants that want to be a podcaster, they get focused on trying to monetize it. I was taught by multiple people that I reached out to that you're going to probably eat shit for the first 18 to 36 months is what they quoted me at. And so I was prepared, and I got caught up in the beginning kind of staring at the analytics, how many downloads are you getting, whatever. Yeah. But at some point you realize that most people are busy in the world. They're not going to listen to every episode, but some people like 2-hour conversation. Some people just want a 30-second clip. But at the end of the day, if you're showing somebody off, if you're showing off what their mission is or the business that they're starting, and they get the attention, that's what it's for at the end of the day. And then you're building that relationship so that you can basically be the mastermind or the puppeteer behind to connect people all across the city.
Yeah. That's what I enjoy so much, man, is being a networker and being able to connect with people. And you're right, because now I've seen, and I know Gary Vaynerchuk's talked about it, it's like social media is now the TV stations, right? Like Facebook has a certain feel, Instagram has a certain feel, LinkedIn has a certain feel. We're on all of those. Friends of ours that actually started a company called Free Space that they're trying to get in a different lane, which is another social media channel. You're on there and you're looking for stuff differently, like you said, if you go on to Facebook, it's all over the place, right? So you're trying to shift through, but people like those 1 minute, people like those 3 minute, motivation things. I mean, that's what I look at when I'm on Instagram. I'm looking at something really small.
It's the shorter content.
Yeah, shorter content. So,
and it's, you have people that are doing the social media content or being influencer podcasters, their agenda isn't the same. If you go on these national news sources and things like that, you don't know what the hidden agenda is. You don't know the vision of the ownership or the person behind it that's pushing what their vision is. Versus a podcast is really just mine and Paki and yours opinion. And, and of the small business owners that we're interviewing, which is, to me, a fantastic perspective of it, because you don't get to see that. We're, I don't know about you, but not independently wealthy. We're not extreme. We don't have a hidden agenda. We're not trying to push a vision of something that we don't necessarily, agree with. We really just want to hear their story. And I think that's the biggest difference between news media and like the rise of the social media influencers, and also just with podcasters in general.
Yeah. And it's what I enjoy about the content creative world against the traditional media route, where content creators that are in this creative economy seems to be what the term has been designated towards it. We're all about collaboration, right? That's why we each have our own quote unquote radio show, but we're sitting here discussing with each other about how we can grow the entire movement together. Whereas you see similar radio shows, either whether it's through the radio airwaves or through TV, they're all competing with each other. They're all bashing each other. They're trying to direct their attention. But we know in the content creation space that if you take two people who command attention and you put them on the same screen or on the same airwaves, then it amplifies the message, and more people are going to come than just the respective audiences.
The iron sharpens iron is 100% right. I mean, it's like when we met with Jeremy, mutual friend of ours, Jeremy Siegel, that, has a book out, amazing thing. He's networking with a lot of people. And when you have that energy, it vibes, man, and it brings us all up. So love that.
Yeah. And as we were discussing before, the entrepreneurial network of Vegas is small compared to the overall population. There's about, I don't know, 2.5 million people, give or take a few 100,000 each way. But I would suspect that the entrepreneurial network out here is maybe 5 to 10,000 people. As you begin to network and meet more of the leaders and all of their different groups, you realize that everyone really knows each other. Vegas is probably one of the smallest big cities in the entire country. Yeah. It's so strange, but it's so cool.
You know, that's the funny thing you said. You don't even realize that until you start going out, and especially when you're networking. Everybody definitely knows everybody. It's so funny. From all the podcasts that we've been on, or we've had people on, behind the scenes, it's like literally like a triangle. You know what I mean? But then you also know in the corporate world, it's the same way too. You know what I mean? People network, or people like we talk about offline, you know, in our business. It's just funny, man. It's really funny. What do you think you've learned the most about, you know, doing podcasting?
About there's so many benefits from it. From a personal standpoint, it's taught me how to have an authentic conversation. It improves your conversational skills. I make this joke with my friends all the time that when I'm sitting there talking with them, if it's one-on-one, I'm like, I can't tell if I'm in podcast mode or if I'm just in Jake mode. But then it's like at the end of the day, it should be the same thing if it's an authentic conversation. So you really just improve, and you improve your listening as well. Something that I like to say all the time is that in order to be understood, you must first understand. If you're not reciprocating attention each way and it's one-sided, then both parties are going to eventually turn off that attention span. So no one really cares. But in terms of Vegas, I was also talking about this recently. A lot of my interests are very diverse and spread across. Like I'm a big crypto bug. I've had a few different businesses. And so my like 5 pillars have been like networking, entrepreneurship, Vegas, crypto, and there's something else in there. And I was like, where this intersection lies, I have no idea. And now looking a year later, that intersection hasn't completely crossed, but it's becoming a little bit more pronounced. And so I'm trying to like shed the light on entrepreneurship and networking in Las Vegas, because no one's really been able to shed the light, or it just like, it hasn't gained enough attention overall. So that's on like Instagram and stuff, I've begun posting different networking events I'm going to, because there is a lot of interest in it. Just no one has kind of taken the risk to be able to shed the light on that kind of industry that's evolving.
Yeah. Do you think that's because a lot of the strip sucks a lot of that up?
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? Because you just get they got so much of the money, the media, you know, the PR to be able to throw that in there, that everything else goes by the wayside.
I think the COVID pandemic really accelerated the technological improvement of society. Vegas has always operated in this 3D model where there's no technological overlay, right? Everything that's on the strip, no one's using their phone for everything. It's all interpersonal interactions, tipping, bottle service with lights and stuff like that. But the strip's done a really bad job at utilizing the technological innovation, right? Integrating smart apps and integrating internet communities. I've had on a few content creators. I know you guys have as well. But casinos were very negligent towards content creators. Like they did not let them walk through with cameras. You can't record anything. They want to create this like artificial appearance of the casino, and the internet's looking for authentic mediums, whatever it may be. And so now we start seeing I think the downtown noticed that. And so Derek Stevens at Circa and Jonathan Joss at the Plaza have really allowed those content creators to come in, and they've been collaborating with them. And they just like Plaza just has a slot machine section to one of the most popular YouTube slot machine players. I forget, Christopher Lawrence, I think his name is.
Okay.
And so downtown started doing that. And now I think the strip is like, crap, we're falling behind because it's so corporatized. There's so many levels that they have to go through in terms of getting things done. That that's why Vegas is beginning to evolve outside of the strip because of that corporate nature.
It's interesting. When we had Robert Frederick on, when you learn about what happens, he owns a company called Circle. So we have obviously Vegas Circle, then you have Circle, but it's amazing what you can see behind the scenes with the analytics and how people's spending habits are, how people, they have it all down to a science. I can't even imagine what the analytics for the casino are, and how you could steer people the right way to go this way or that way or this bright thing there. It's amazing how they build these $1 billion casinos, and I know you worked in the industry, so it's amazing.
Yeah, I had to get out of it after 10 years. I've noticed working on the Strip, at least from a lot of my previous coworkers and friends, there's usually like a no turning back point where you get a position on the Strip, you work your way up after a few years, whether it's a tipping position or a corporate gig where you're making 6 figures or more. And then they kind of just like check out of life. They become content with what they're making, and they don't really want to build a business or a brand. They're just like, all right, this is it, the end of life. And so I think it's because of that temptation, the easy money, that no one has really, outside of us and a handful of other people, have really tried to strongman the idea of entrepreneurship in the city, because there is an issue with pulling capital off of the Strip. All of my coworkers in the previous areas that I've worked on the Strip, you go make a lot of money, and then what do you do with that money? You go back out and you spend the money. So it stays in the system. Yeah. And so I think that's also an issue that Vegas faces with entrepreneurship, is the majority of the money that's being made on the Strip, the like ludicrous amounts, tends to stay in that system because the Strip is really good at keeping everything there.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about the education, right? So do you think, especially with you growing up here, I know Vegas has been around like 49th, 48th in the nation, sometimes 50 in the nation. Do you think it's like they don't want to educate you so that you fall into that service industry?
I think that's part of it. I think Vegas has built its image off of being the entertainment capital of the world. So a lot of the public funding tends to go that way. We saw that happen with the Raiders Stadium, which got a lot of flack. And now the baseball stadium or NBA stadium, same exact thing is going to happen. And so it's become very economically focused rather than educationally focused. I mean, the UNLV's been improving. It became a Research One facility recently. I've been collabing with the Harry Reid Research and Technology Park. That's where I'm doing a lot of my crypto stuff. So there are these different areas that are blooming, but they're very small and minute compared to the Goliath that is the Strip.
When you were growing up here, did you go to the Strip a lot, or would you?
Yeah. We used to ride bikes down in like 8th grade and hang out there. That's back when it was more family centric. There was arcades, GameWorks was there. They had Wet and Wild was still on the Strip. Like it was a lot of fun. But it's definitely, Vegas is now going through another facelift that generally happens every 10 or so years, and that's where it's becoming actual community now. We see a lot of different businesses and markets are beginning to emerge out here. The adult entertainment industry has moved down here. I've heard some of the film industry from California has moved out here. We have some tech companies that are finding benefits out here as well, as you talked about, a lot of tax positive benefits.
For sure.
So those things are happening now. And I mean, look at the real estate market. It's like absolutely insane. There's like 2,000 houses on the market every month for the last 6 months.
We pay attention a lot of the real estate. I sold a house in March, and it was just unbelievable. We bought a house at 2005, and it was almost getting there. But now you go to rebuy, and it's like $800,000.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's a seller's market right now. Yeah. So, and from what I've learned is that the majority of new Vegas residents are remote workers that are working for tech companies from across the country, mostly from California. So they're still making really nice pay. Because it has to be compensated because of the high livelihood costs living in California. Yeah. But now they could come in, buy 2-3 houses, have an investment property, have their own house, and so they're just like buying everything up. So I think there's going to be a rise in entrepreneurship over the next 3 to 5 years, because all of those people who are making a lot of money, as we know, if you live out in Vegas for more than 2-3 years, you're probably going to stay here forever. Yeah. So then these people that aren't moving to Vegas per se for the Strip are going to want to do something with all that money that they're making, and they're going to want to start businesses. Yeah. So it's good that we're on the ground floor, because we have those images that we could go out there and talk with them and kind of help everyone discover the cool things that are happening in the city.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because you see it even, I think Vegas did a really good job of learning from our past mistakes with the first economic crisis at the beginning of 2000, where they realized that we have to diversify our economy. It can't strictly be entertainment focused, and I think this time around with the pandemic really shed some light on the fact that we do have a base economy here that can thrive away from just entertainment and Strip. And that is 100% due to the fact that we have the entrepreneurs that are focusing on growing their external businesses away from the Strip. So I think as we have learned from our prior mistakes, that you're going to continue to see that influx of money, entrepreneurship from other locations, like you mentioned, California, because we are so. You can make $1 million in a small city and it doesn't mean much. But if you make $1 million in Vegas, you actually could do something with it. Yeah. You can have fun and enjoy your life, and you can actually, keep majority of that in your pocket due to, like you guys have mentioned, the tax benefits. But really, it is just a great place to grow a business. And then outside of the Strip, it's a great place to even raise a family. There's a lot of things to do. Your proximity to lakes, mountains, hiking. It's just really the perfect place to be, from my opinion. Yeah.
So since you guys began your podcasting journey over the last 3 years, are there any entrepreneurial trends that you've noticed in between either just observations of the city or maybe the mentality of the entrepreneurs who come on your show?
I would say the mentality is they don't care what people think. Mm-hmm. Like, they're literally like laser focused, and so many of them are just organized. I've noticed, like, a lot of the business people that we've had on, they're organized, they're focused, they're in their lane, and they know what they're good at. And some of them were good on return on investment, figuring out their lane there. But yeah, I would say for the most part, it was really just the organization, man. It was really the organization, and they knowing what they're doing and not getting sidetracked with the BS of their friends or, them telling them it's not going to work or whatever it was. They just threw themselves out there and did it.
Yeah, and for me too, it's like they're not afraid to attack the establishment. And I think with Vegas, you're used to all the big lights, the big names, and it's kind of intimidating when you're trying to create a business because you automatically assume you're competing against these large billion-dollar corporations. Yeah. So you see people in Vegas, I notice the trends, they're not afraid to do the exact same thing that the other people are doing, whether it's creating a coffee company to compete with Starbucks. They're not afraid to attack that establishment. And I think it's inherent because of the fact that it just started a business, you already have to assume that you're competing with conglomerates. Like you have to, and so I see people doing the same thing, but in their own way. Like they're basically not afraid to create their own business that's already there, but do it in the way that is personal to them.
You know what? Summer is here. Football is about to start. Baseball has started. Basketball is going on. Every major championship is right around the corner. But you know what is not? A wild and hairy bush. Yes, that's right. Tame your pubes with help from our friends over at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. I know they've been sponsoring the show for quite some time now. You guys are very familiar with this. Their 4th generation performance package includes a brand new lawnmower. If an athlete treats their body like royalty, why not treat your pubes like Olympic gold? Fellas, do right by your balls and join the 2 million worldwide who trust Manscaped. It's been a little over a month now since Vegas has been fully opened. I've been to a concert at the brand new stadium out here. I went to a casino opening. I think that the world is ready to get back to force, especially out here in Sin City. But what you guys need to do is get ready and open yourself up to the Performance Package 4.0, which is from Manscaped. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you'll find a handful of things. You'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Toner, plus 2 free gifts, some boxer briefs, which I love, I wear on the regular, and a Shed travel bag. All of these products in the Performance Package 4.0 has a handful of utility. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor. It has a 4,000 LED spotlight. The package also comes with the Weed Whacker to get right up in that nose to make sure that you can get out all of those prickly hairs and also save your ear from some dissatisfaction as well. Now hear me out, everybody. Use the code THEGUESTLIST, one word, the guest list, just like the podcast, over at manscaped.com to receive 20% off and free shipping. I have had dozens of friends order this product. I have not heard anything bad. I use it on the regular, especially when you're out here in Las Vegas getting ready to go out and have a good time. You want to make sure that your confidence is at an all-time high. Make sure you use the code THEGUESTLIST for 20% off and free shipping over at manscaped.com. Let's get back to the show, guys.
Mm-hmm. And in Vegas, you have to have laser sharp focus, not only because you're competing with these massive corporations, but the temptation of going out every night to the strip club, to your friend that is in town for the 4th time this year and wants to go out with you. There's so many different things that can lure you away from that mission that you're building. that it becomes tough at times. That was one of the reasons why I went sober for 3 years. Is I was going out, spending way too much money, ending up at the strip club till fucking wee hours of the morning. Yeah. And I was just like, how does this keep happening? How does it keep happening? And eventually, I think everyone at some point has like this epiphany that you're not really doing anything with your life. And that's kind of like that do or die moment where you're like, okay, am I actually going to build something with this money that I've made? Or am I just going to continually party and hopefully I can hook up with a 10 for the night?
Yeah. See, I've been with my wife almost 20 years, so I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing about that. I'm getting punched in the face. But no, it's funny you say that. You do get epiphanies, as you get up in age. Like I have 2 kids, and I'll tell you, that's what stopped me. You literally start getting laser focused on, as you're getting older, you start figuring out, like you were saying, you were trying to do the ticket business, you hit that, you start to pivot, and then you really start figuring out, what are you good at? You know what I mean? What are you good at? For me, I'm not trying to be conceited on that side, but I love people, right? So I love being able to talk with people. I love being able to network with them. And I think it's not that it's a sales pitch, but I think it's marketing. It's like marketing yourself. And what I've learned too is now everybody is their own brand.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing that you started to see. Is I heard this honestly in 2001, where when the internet wasn't as big, 9/11 happened. And I remember this guy had said, this business guy that I heard, he was talking about, you're going to build your own brand. And you don't realize that you're building your own brand. People don't realize all the crazy stuff that you're doing. And I notice it now, like when you're looking at a lot of stuff, like people can see what you're all about from your social media, right? You always tell on yourself in a way, but you realize it's your own brand, and that's where it's marketable. Influencers have gotten very big. Obviously, back in the day, a lot of musicians and artists and things like that made big money from sponsorships. But now, building your own brand, I mean, you see it with yourself. You building a podcast, people are looking. They want eyes.
And you never know who's listening either.
At all.
A lot of the new businesses and endeavors that I've dove into were people reaching out to me saying, hey, we've listened to 10 episodes. Because the podcast analytics are terrible. Yeah. They're terrible. They're so antiquated. You have no idea who's listening. Whereas YouTube, literally the second that they listen, the second they turn off. Yeah. That with podcasting, it's like the wild, wild west in the background.
Yeah.
But I think the messaging of having a podcast is much more powerful because they can hear the authenticity from you. Everyone loves Joe Rogan, or at least I do, because I feel like I'm there in the conversation. He's asking every question that I'm thinking of at the same exact time, and he's just like, he's very concentrated on his focus to be able to portray his message.
You're 100% right, because audio, it really is the oldest medium. It's the area where most people have communicated with. They've had conversations with people literally their entire life. Like, this is our oldest medium. And how often do you get to have that authentic conversation where like you're sitting in the living room with somebody, like you're having there and they're just chatting, and you get to listen like the fly on the wall to determine what 2 people are thinking about, whether it's something that interests you, that's to be determined, but you're actually in that conversation, which I think is so great about it.
Yeah.
So how do you guys go about picking your guests? And the only reason I ask this is because I get asked this question 4,000 times, and I don't really have a process. It's kind of a combination of like people who reach out to me, referrals, just like browsing the internet. Yeah. How do you come upon your guests?
So it's a mixture of what you just said. It's a mixture of both. So for the last 3 years, we've had a lot of people reach out, for sure. Now as we've been building it, I've also networked, for many years. So you start building those relationships for people that you got. And then, we might reach out to some people too, to kind of see. But our main thing is we're looking for organic stories, not gimmicky. You want organic stories to come on. So I want to say not strictly a business show, but we're a business show, right? But we might have an artist that comes on, but they're building their brand too, So our main thing is, I would say it's a mixture of everything, man. It's not really one lane.
Really, If you're interested in kind of come on the podcast and you have a great story, whether it's talking about the nonprofits, culture of Vegas, entertainment, building your brand, any of those things interest us. So if we find it interesting, we would love to have them on as a guest. There are some situations where, like Paki said, there may be a gimmicky something. Somebody's trying to push a multi-level marketing, and I was like, okay, no, that's not really building your brand, where it doesn't meet our same focus because it's already a pre-established thing that you're trying to promote. Like we're we're not trying to really promote those kind of things, but we really want to tell what's your success story. And that's, for me, what interests me the most is how did you get from point A to point B?
I'm so glad you said that, because I tweeted out a few weeks ago. I said, if you send me a message saying that you want to come on the podcast to promote an item, there's a 10 out of 10 chance you're not coming on the podcast.
I'm going to be honest with you, that's the most we get. We get that nonstop, like 3 to 4 messages on all platforms, you know what I mean, reaching out for that. But I mean, it's right though, man. It's, in your gut what the whole piece is, you know what I mean? In your gut what they're all about.
Yeah. You want to embrace the mentality of the entrepreneur is kind of the idea. And you have to have kind of like a wide selection, or you have to be very loose with your prerequisites for your guests, because Vegas is so diverse. Yeah. You don't know who's living here at what time. Only 25% of the Vegas population are Vegas natives that were born here. So it's a very transient town. So people are coming and going constantly. A trend that I see recently is there's actually been a ton of YouTubers, like popular YouTubers, have now moved into Vegas, and it's like, you don't know. You can't really plan for that, because you have no idea that people are migrating out here. But then one day they'll pop up on either YouTube account or Twitter, or they'll message you, or you see your friend hanging out with them, and you're like, crap, I need to hang out. I need them on the show. I need the world to be aware that they're here and they're trying to push Vegas forward, and not just their own brand or product.
Yeah. What have you noticed about the new influencer? Do you feel like, I mean, you hear the gimmicky side of it too, right? Where you've kind of built, like, what do you do? Does that make sense? Like, you got all these viewerships, you got all this stuff, but like, what do you actually do?
Yeah.
And that's what I always hear. Like, you hear some of the rap artists make fun of it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember the dude from Harlem that talked about it, but it made a lot of sense, because you're like, well, what do you do? Are you just on there to show your butt and show this and get attention? But are you actually building something? But now I've noticed people have flipped that, because they've taken the eyes and then they've built, swimsuit companies and coffee shops and all these other capital items. It's just amazing. It's unlimited what you could do with building a brand.
Yeah, there's a few ways of going about building a brand online. There's either the virality route, where you have a funny video, or I don't know, you get hit by a car or something like that, and it gets multiple millions of views. So then you get all these followers. And then if you're smart, you realize that you have tens of thousands of people watching you, then you could start building a brand from that. But I had a gentleman on here, his name is Marcus Miller. He's like, he's a brand consultant, and he talks about the difference between personal branding and sales marketing, right? And he's like, if you're trying to market a business, then generally you're going to have some sort of like call to action sales for it. But if you're trying to market yourself, that's a multi-year process. And there's nothing, you should never talk about selling anything, because you're selling yourself. That's branding. You're selling yourself, right? It's the same thing of being in a relationship with somebody else. You're constantly selling yourself for literally 20 years. Yeah.
No, you're 100%
and
right.
you have to find different ways to make yourself look more lively.
And you change too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You change over time. You know what I mean? I don't think the same that I thought when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You adapt, and you want to continue to keep learning. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why I'm so resistant towards cancel culture, because they live on the underlying thought that you aren't going to improve, right? They're trying to cancel you for something you said 20 years ago. And you're like, then you're just saying that nobody's ever growing. And you're like, yeah, maybe it was inconsiderate, whatever I said, or it was in a bad light. But if you are a dramatically improved person, then that also needs to be factored into the cancellation of somebody.
You know, it's so funny. I thought you were going to bring it up too. You know who I'm so impressed with is LeBron James, because he's literally had the same team that's worked with him. You're in the media where all of us in here have said dumb stuff, but we're not in the media where you're going to be embarrassed about it.
Yeah, where they're going to attack it immediately.
Correct. Yeah, but he's carried himself in such a way that see what he's done it with his kids. He's been with his wife the same way. Since I don't even know what high school sweethearts. They've been together.
And his manager's from high school too, right?
Yeah, Maverick and Rich Paul and all these guys. But the reason why I say that is because he's continued to adapt, and that's very hard to do. You know what I mean? And not embarrass yourself. You know what I mean? Get caught up with side chicks or whatever it is. It's very hard to do. Keep your nose clean. Especially
the level that he's at, and and maintain that type of legitimacy for that long.
Yeah,
it's nearly impossible. But that just shows the effectiveness of being a great leader. Yeah. Is that as you grow and pivot, you also share that knowledge with those that you surround yourself with. Some leaders kind of become a little bit more egotistical or self-centered, and they don't like to share that knowledge because they'll hoard all the women or the money or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, it's about, if you're going to be a leader, you have to have effective communication with those around you with the message that you want to be portrayed. But then you're never going to stay the same person. And going back to the content creators, do you know who Mr. Beast is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Mr. Beast, he has like 50 million YouTube subscribers. He's 21 years old.
What's he do? Yep.
He basically, he does like philanthropic giveaways where he'll give away like 50 cars or $1 million houses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and he talks about how, he's definitely going to be probably the first content creator billionaire, like specifically through YouTube. Damn. But he talks about how he had 4 or 5 different YouTube channels throughout his entire career. He started creating a YouTube channel when he was like 14, and then just kept figuring out what got views, what didn't, and then just pivoted, and that's the mindset of having to be an entrepreneur, is that if there's this giant mountain in front of you, right, the first thought is like to try to climb over it. Well, if it's too high, then you're going to try to go around it. Yep. If that's too wide, maybe you want to dig under it or through it or take a helicopter. Like, there's so many ways to go about an obstacle that as long as you don't quit and you're made consistent, then you will get there.
Yeah. You're 100% right. I mean, we noticed it when we were, Chris, I was driving him crazy. Like, we were talking about Zoom and all of that. Like, we were in the studio. We've had 2 different studios. Now we're on our 3rd studio. And, but you're right. You have to figure out a way to be able to do it. And I noticed, like, now with businesses being done where you're not doing in-business meetings, you're doing Zoom meetings or you're doing Teams meetings. You're getting a lot done, but now you could get more done now with technology, And that's what I'm very interested to see, like you were saying about Vegas is, they're not like a Seattle or LA or, with the technology side, or even like a Boston or something. That's what I'm excited to see in Vegas now, when you've got all of these hubs, but you would love to see some of these big technologies like, your Microsofts and all of those come
in. Vegas needs to leverage it. They're very far behind. That's why I've kind of started my own crypto endeavor with UNLV and casinos and operators and stuff like that. Is they all realize that they're really far behind, and there's a huge thirst for crypto knowledge and interest out here, and a bunch of people have talked about throwing money at it, even though they don't know why, but they know that they need to. And it's the same with like leveraging internet communities on the Strip or downtown Vegas, is that Vegas right now, it's the experience, or it's the entertainment capital of the world, but it's eventually going to become the experience capital of the world if they can leverage internet communities on top of that. Circa has a podcast studio with VSIN, the sports network. Oh, wow. Wynn is building a podcast studio literally in their lobby, $5 million one with, I think it's called Blue something. It's another sports podcaster. Okay. So my suspicion is that eventually all of these casinos are going to have podcast studios and residencies, because what a better way to attract customers, especially the millennial generation and younger, than to have their favorite podcaster. They're doing a live podcast, or they're for meet and greets or anything like that. So they're beginning to show interest, and implementation still very far behind though.
Yeah. It always surprised me, like the fact that you can't go into a casino and use my debit card on a slot machine. They are very behind. Like you said, I loved your analogy that they're the 3D kind of, I don't know the exact.
Yeah, it's like a 3D operating system.
3D operating system. And it's such a weird dynamic that they're really perfect for technology forward focus, and they just have not done it. And it always amazed me that you can't log in and it scans you, lets you know you get your rewards points right on here. I have to bring my card still to put in a machine. Yeah. It's very, very odd that they haven't pushed that forward in the casino industry.
It's probably because they like the cash. You're giving cash, and you're thinking you're getting a lot more back versus that quick transaction.
Yeah. Resort World is implementing a cashless system now. I went to Resort World for the opening day. Yeah, that system went down very quickly. So there's a lot of work to be done. Exactly. But they're definitely showing that, at least Resort World is showing that they want to be the leader in technological innovation on the Strip. And there was hundreds of content creators running around there with their little gimbals and cameras, me included. So
it's hard not to.
Yeah, it's literally free attention. That's what I didn't understand. I know there could be some sort of malicious intent if you're video recording the craps table or the blackjack with stuff like that. But outside of that, the majority of the internet is consuming content through social media, through their favorite influencers. They're not consuming it through CNN. And so if Caesars just keeps popping up on people's timeline, then eventually you're going to use Caesars just based off of human psychology.
Yeah. It's funny you said that when you talk about like the news media. Do you remember, were you ever on MySpace?
Yes.
So if I remember correctly, when MySpace was doing everything, they didn't own nothing, right? He literally was when he sold, I think, to Rupert Murdoch, he was buying eyes. And literally before you were logging in, right? Because you think you had to log in every single time. You had a Blockbuster, you had all, the Super Bowl, you had all these movies. It seems like now everything is just eyes. Everybody wants the eyes. Everybody wants the attention
economy.
Yeah, and it's I don't know how, it's amazing, like you said about Resort World and things like that. They've been able to almost steal everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why I was so surprised to be able to see, like they stole almost everybody is there now, like Celine and the whole nine. But what I'm curious about is, how are they going to be able to keep that up? You know what I mean? To be able to pay that much when you don't have that much coming in.
Yeah, well, the owner has deep pockets.
Yeah.
But to be a profit-generating casino takes a lot of work.
Oh.
We saw Caesars was running at a deficit for so long that they ended up getting bought out.
Exactly, yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I do think that Resort World is here to stay, though. I don't think it's going to be a Palm situation that a lot of people have been comparing it to. It is a completely different beast for it. But as long as they're leveraging the internet communities, then I think they'll be good, because I like running through casinos, videotaping shit, but then adding your own spice to it. I know a lot of them said that they didn't allow things for PR purposes.
Yeah.
But as I've learned, good PR and bad PR is PR at the end of the day.
Sure.
And so as long as you're not just doing them wrong, then I don't get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're making all the right moves. And like even just yesterday, I was driving by it, and they had a giant QR code displayed on the
big screen.
I was like, that's the biggest QR code I've ever seen in my entire life. But that alone is like showing you that they're a very forward-thinking casino, that they really are going to be making their impact on there continuously, is because you don't really see that at any of the other casinos. Like they're old, antiquated business models. Yeah, they work because they're obviously making money, but it's just not. It doesn't seem very sustainable when you have those competitors coming in and making a change like that.
And if once they start improving the technology sector of the Strip and downtown, then it's gonna fizzle out, or it's gonna migrate outwards to the city. And that's what I've been hoping to talk with. They started doing an event called Tech in the Alley down here in the Arts District. The other one's this Saturday at the time of this recording. And the last two that I've been to have grown. The first one was maybe 30 people. The last one's now 60 people, different businesses, to show that there is an interest in this kind of stuff. To me, maybe you guys can relate with this. To me, it feels like the Vegas locals are very siloed. It's like the tech community doesn't communicate with the marketing community, and the advertising community doesn't communicate with the sports heads and stuff like that. It's very siloed. So for each of us to have our own platform, it's just introducing all of those people, all of those missions to each other. Because I can't tell you the amount of people who messaged me and they're like, wow, you have such a diverse selection. I had no idea any of these people existed.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just like a marketing mishap from just Vegas itself, even though you consider Vegas to be a very marketable city.
Yeah.
The locals just haven't caught on to it.
Yeah, it makes like, because like Paki, and that's one thing that we've noticed too, is that we may interview somebody and we like connecting them with each other as well, because like, hey, you would be able to really benefit in your business by utilizing this person we had on the podcast. Yeah. And we always like to introduce them to each other as well, because ultimately that supports our vision of moving forward the culture of Vegas as well. And I think, and it's crazy because we're getting ready to have our anniversary event, and we're going to have a lot of our people that we had on our podcast at this event.
Congrats.
And it's going to be the one thing that was curious to me is how willing everybody was to attend the event. Like you assume that you're not going to get a lot of RSVPs. Everybody wanted to join because they like the networking as much as we do. And it's really interesting to see that dynamic.
It's so funny because I reach out to Chris all the time. I'll be like, we've got to pass this person, connect this person, group. He's like, who are you connecting me with? We don't even know who's on, because a lot of people want to reach out because they're so hungry and they want business. You know what I mean? And people that realize that the ego needs to just be thrown out of the door, man. Ask for help. You know what I mean? I like people that they just ask for help.
And being a human connector too, there's so many benefits from it. That's not just from a monetary perspective.
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of maybe beginning entrepreneurs or just people who work just a regular wage job, they don't understand that not everything has a financial compensation attached to it in the beginning. A term that I like to use all the time is called social capital or social equity, right? This conversation that we're having with each other, I'm investing my social capital in you. Therefore, you give me social equity. At some point later down the road, that's redeemed in some sort of referral or, I don't know, a future business idea or just more audience. Like there's so many different facets to it that sometimes you just don't understand because it's not just taught in schools as like financial literacy.
You're 100% right. It's amazing. I'm starting to see so many people that are teaching, and I wish they would, what you just said right now, I wish they would teach that in schools, and that needs to start at elementary schools. In the United States I love how you was talking about cryptocurrency, being able to teach that. We need to start getting these in schools, but it needs to start in elementary schools so they at least start building that subconscious, that's, it would just be amazing.
In school, it's almost like collaboration is not allowed. You talk to somebody while the teacher's talking, it's like, nope, stop talking. Focus on the person delivering the message. Don't interact, don't network. You're kind of conditioned to just stay in your lane in school, and I think that really, like Paki said, needs to change a little bit.
The educational model is changing. I mean, look at YouTube University. 90% of stuff that I learned for the podcast was through YouTube in the matter of 6 months. And you can do that for pretty much anything. And now with universities transitioning to remote education as well, it's like you don't need to be in a classroom because a lot of the things that they've taught through this curriculum is antiquated. It's just like it's not needed in a place that the majority of society is going to be a nomad, or they live a nomadic life, or they're a digital nomad where you can take your job with you anywhere that you go. You don't need to be physically present for most positions now, or at least going to be.
Yeah. You know what else is tough is seeing Vegas, right? Not big on education. Universities now, man, I don't know what's going to end up happening because it's so expensive for you to be able to go to college now. I mean, I just paid off my school loans 6 years ago. You know what I mean? It's just amazing how much stuff costs. But I'm glad you were talking about like remote learning. We learned a lot about that during this pandemic. And, I got to applaud the Institute, Jesse, who we've had friends. Jesse, and what they've done at the Institute with remote learning and being able to build sports along with learning, they're not doing your typical just foundation of, like you said, you're able to interact. You're able to learn this. You're able to learn the whatever it is, for sports medicine, all these different things, managing your money. Like there's a lot of things that they're doing that is just amazing, and I love the fact that he's a California native, moved to Vegas to build that because he saw that window, you know what I mean? And he probably couldn't do that in California because it's so expensive to build a business, So, and it's making our city better. That's what I love about it. It's making our city better.
Yeah, because I think Vegas has the ability to pivot very quickly. We're a relatively new city if you look at it in the grand scheme of things. As much as our population has evolved very rapidly, we have the ability to make changes like that quickly. Changes in education system, changes in technology, and you see within 10 years we really diversified our whole economy. And we're a place like Los Angeles can't do that. You're pretty much stuck where you are, and if you want to change, it's going to take you 30 years. Vegas, we could change our whole dynamic in 10 years, and I think that makes us a very forward-thinking city in a lot of ways, similar to like Seattle, where they can change very rapidly, quickly. And I think that really benefits us when we see these trends. We have the ability to move quickly into that endeavors.
Vegas has one of the best infrastructures for success, I think, in the entire country. From the transit nature of 40 million people traveling here a year to the 2.5 million people who do live here. That's diverse economically, politically, culturally. The future is literally limitless. It's just, I think at the end of the day, for Vegas, it's going to come down to the independent entrepreneurs and creators to kind of strongman that or piggyback and take it into the sunrise that it should be, because these corporations of the Strip, it's just like, they're so layered that to get one thing done, it has to go through 7 different channels and has to get approved. And by that time, it's months and months and months. And I'm learning that working, doing some stuff with the university, is that, it's not their fault. The person that you're working with directly loves you and wants to believe in your mission, but it's just
control.
It's about control, authority, and just the multiple steps where the content world moves really fast. The crypto industry moves extremely fast, probably the fastest in the world. And these corporate structures aren't going to be able to keep up with it. So it comes down to people like us to just keep sharing the message and to curate our own brand images the way that we want. That's at least not malicious in intent to try to be either a slave of the algorithm, like some of these YouTube creators that, they have these weird thumbnails that it grabs attention, but then like what you were saying at the end of the day, like what are they actually doing? They're just like being talking heads on a screen, not actually giving out any valuable information. They're just you to like waste time and for them to get views and get paid.
Yeah. That's the most interesting part is like you were saying is value. And Chris and I were talking about it too. It's funny when I was talking with him for so many years about doing it. He's like, if we're going to do it, we want to build value and we want to build it right. You know what I mean? And show us in the best light and really not try to embarrass people. Right. Because it's so funny. Right before we'll do interviews, a lot of people will reach out and be like, hey, can you give me the questions ahead of time? Or I know you've got that. Like, what are we going to talk about? And I'll tell them, hey, we're not TMZ. We're not trying to embarrass you. We're not trying to pull up dumb stuff, even though we know that stuff, but we're not trying to embarrass you. But whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk about. But we want to uplift people and give them a story so that they can learn from it, and then it's going to make us all better.
Yeah,
you
it's
know
easy
what I mean?
to get somebody on and make a joke or put them
down,
bring up their whatever it is that can get a lot of views, because you can have people on that are extremely famous, and if you get like a talking point of doing something really negative quickly.
Yeah, and you can take it out of context.
You take it out of context, and you can get a lot of views just from that snippet. And ultimately, that's not what our vision is. We don't want the quick success of being able to just get a viral video by exposing a guest. And, for us, it's about really, like Paki mentioned, providing that content. How do you put you in that best light? And you're going to have a slower growth period by doing that, but ultimately, we're going to be able to sleep better by we're not exposing the people that are doing us, giving us that social equity, as you call it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you just want to fortify your own mission. You want to fortify the relationship that you're building, because podcasting is just a tool. As much as we want to have every episode hit 1 million views and get paid for it, the majority of podcasters aren't going to get paid through a sponsorship. It's like literally less than 1% actually gets paid. But what I have noticed is many podcasters leverage their show and build existing branding or businesses outside of it, whether they become a coach or a cook or they build some sort of digital marketing agency. Like that is very common within podcasters. As long as they make it past a year or so, they all become very successful leveraging the network that you've built.
The funniest thing that we had was I don't know if you know who TK Kirkland is.
He was on your he was on your podcast. Yeah,
hilarious dude, right? But he's mentored D.L. Hughley, Jamie Foxx, all these people behind the scenes that always will say, "Who's your OG?" is T.K. Kirkland. But one of the things that he was mentioning was Charlemagne the God is the one that got him into the podcast business. So it's funny when people were telling him about podcasts, he thought he was talking about like he had no clue what they were talking about, but he realized it's a big business. And like you said, less than 1%, but a lot of them will build, $200,000 a year businesses, you know what I mean? But you can branch out and be able to do so much in that element, you know what I mean? And it's fun, man. It's fun. And I'm excited to see how it can continue to keep growing.
It's only going to, I think the podcasting industry as a whole just hit $1 billion in advertising.
Yeah.
In the entire sector, the TV advertisement is almost 50 billion. So we're literally only 2% of the way there.
Yeah.
And I think just the accessibility and convenience of podcasting, where you can wash the dishes while listening to a podcast, and now even having AirPods where you don't have to have the wire and you literally just everyone's walking around with podcasts in their ears, picking out their groceries or going shopping at the mall or just sitting at home with it in. There's much more consumption is going to be happening. And I was on a podcast with one of my friends, and I told him that by the end of this decade, so by 2030, I think the majority of people are going to consume more audio content than they do video content, just because of how many content creators and entrepreneurs there are. It becomes so much more convenient.
I think it's gonna,
audio.
And I think it is going to continue through audio, but I do personally kind of feel like the podcasting is going to be declining into a more immediate audio experience. Like you're seeing it with apps like Clubhouse. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, where you're having little groups of audio people that are discussing like a podcast setting, but in real time, live, immediate. And where podcast, the one thing that's hard about it is the production. We love audio, we love the conversations, but we know on the back end, editing, production, recording, distributing, all of those things take a lot of time. So even though it's an organic, real conversation, it's a delayed organic, real conversation. Whereas I think the people are going to want a more immediate, real time.
It's a little bit more curated in a sense. I think the live stuff like Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse, the technology hasn't really caught up yet, like with the microphones in a phone. I suspect if that trend keeps growing, then all of the new phones, they advertise like these super crazy cameras. They're going to also start advertising these awesome microphones that you can, so that you could go live on it. But the only issue with the live audio experience is that you have to literally be there, where most people are working 40 to 60 hours a week. So they can't be there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to listen to that Elon Musk interview on Clubhouse.
And you'll be able to see it too, where it's like automatically recorded and then distributed to a subscription base of people. And you're going to see all these various technological like advancements in those spaces, because we're really at the entry level with Clubhouse and the Twitter Spaces. Like those are all very new experiences, but you're exactly right. I can see that continuing to evolve, but then it's going to come into how do you monetize it? How are the people who are creating those contents on those platforms? How are those people going to be able to monetize? And
I know Clubhouse was discussing about creating a creator fund where they can, depending on the amount of people that are in a room and the time, attention, and stuff, they get paid for it through, obviously advertisements come in there. But content creators are creative, as cliche as it sounds. We find ways to either build a business or have those 1,000 diehard fans buy a t-shirt to keep us alive, or you go to the Patreon model, or whatever it is with technology. You find a way at the end of the day to where you don't have to spend 40 hours a week dedicating your time to somebody else's dream.
You speak about Lane, right?
We're there, man. We're out. We're
speak about Lane.
Yeah, we're out here building Vegas culture. It's exciting to see because the culture of Vegas, as we said, it's a very new city. Yeah. So we are literally on the foundation. Like, how many podcasts are there that are locally based podcasts that talk with the locals, but outside of us two? I think there's maybe 10 or less. The majority of Vegas podcasts are all people reporting about the Strip, right?
Or sports.
Right, or sports, or gambling. Those are the top three. Like, you have Scott Robin of Vital Vegas. He has a super popular one. You have Mark and Karen from 360 Vegas. Those are like the two popular ones to talk about the events of the Strip.
Sure.
And then you have gambling podcasts, and the sports. Those are like the main three. Yep. But we realized that there's still a population of 2.5 million people outside of this one small concentrated area. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to take much longer to grow, but those foundational pillars are going to be so strong that eventually when people are in town, they're going to be like, hey, I'm going to have to come on to Vegas Circle, or I'm going to have to come on to the guest list and talk with these guys because they're the pioneers out here.
And it's amazing that you say that, right? Because, you're going to pull different things out of people, right? So people think we can be competitors, but we're not, because it's enhancing Vegas, and that's our goal, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I've noticed is that you relate on different levels. There's different lanes, there's different energy that people relate on, and also people can get more comfortable with you. Right, like you were saying, is sometimes we'll have it where we're recorded or we're in the studio, that you get some things that are offline that they'll talk about that it's so funny. But at the end of the day, that's the cool thing about the stories, man, and being able to share them. It's just there's so many cool people out there, man, that are doing some amazing things, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it.
There really is space for it, because we can interview somebody, and then you can interview somebody, and they're two totally different.
Yeah, and we've had. I was looking through the other day. I think we have like 5 or 6 of the similar guests, and that's awesome to me. I think that's incredible because that person gets to share it through 2 different mediums, and they are 2 different conversations. Obviously, that person has the same story, but they relate all to us differently. So sometimes they'll feel more comfortable. Sometimes maybe the guest just isn't in the mood, and they want to be very business centric, and then other times you relate to them because they have a kid and I don't have a kid, and so then they're going to open up a little bit more.
Yeah, because how long has like Elon Musk been interviewed? 100 times by 100 different people. It doesn't. Every experience is different. It doesn't make the people who interviewed them less competitive. That you can have a totally different experience. So the more people who get interviewed by that person, the better it is for everybody. I think they get more exposure. We get more content. It's a great experience for everybody around.
We're pushing the culture forward, gentlemen. Before we get out of here, I always ask the same question to everybody. We'll start with Chris. What does Las Vegas mean to you?
When I first moved here, they called it the land of second chances. And I was originally from Detroit metro area, and it was a very tough time. So Vegas, for me, was the land of second chances. So it gave me an opportunity to grow and do something that I'm passionate about.
Awesome. How about you, Paki?
They always say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to be able to share it around the world, not just in Vegas, but I wanted to build this platform to speak around the world, because I love travel. So to me, it's energy, man. It's an energy spot.
Fuck yeah. Everyone has a different interpretation.
And we're interviewers, so we got to ask you, what is your interpretation?
Yeah.
It's so funny. You're only the second person to ever ask that. And it also constantly changes. To me, it's more of exploration because we are on the foundation of building pretty much anything. Yes, the entertainment aspect of the city has been built out and it's going to be ever growing. Mm-hmm. But Vegas is so small that everybody's separated by only one or two people where you can reach out to anybody. So you can have a huge impact on the city just being one person. Whereas if we tried to do the same thing in LA or New York or Chicago, it's so diluted that your message will probably never be heard unless you're that one person who's worked 10 years at it. We're here, if enough eyes and ears are on it, and since the entrepreneurial network's very small, it'll echo through. And so to me, it's just like exploration at this point. And probably 3 months from now, it'll probably change to something else. But that's the beautiful part of living out here.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
Where do I send all of the listeners and viewers to listen to the podcast, follow you guys on social media?
So you can check us out, the Vegas Circle on everything. So Vegas Circle Podcast, thevegascircle.com is our website. And we're literally on everything, LinkedIn, iHeart, everything. So we're there.
Gang. Yeah. It'll all be attached in the show notes for everybody who wants to listen to it. Yeah, they do a killer job. Make sure you follow them, subscribe, all of that fun stuff so that we can continue this mission together and amplify our message. So thank both of you guys for coming on here. This is a fabulous conversation. I was looking forward to this since I started the podcast. And so I was like, oh, these guys are already doing the same idea that I want. But it's cool that we're doing it together now.
It was great to meet you, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.